very good evening to you. You're welcome to Factual Chat with Debby. Wherever you're watching from, it's a beautiful day. There's been a lot of drama, so much of it. It's Factual Chat with Debby. Today we are looking at a matter that has been on for a while now. You know, it's been stirring up a lot of the polity. It's revealed a lot of things. It's actually about a commission that was set up with the sole aim of helping the Niger Delta develop into something better. They were originally initiated to ensure that the Niger Delta is developed. So it's called the Niger Delta Development Commission. So much has been heard, so much has, a lot of waters have passed through the bridge. There have been several administrations in a while now. They had not actually have a substantive chairman. It's been more like caretaker committees, what they call the IMC. They just come in like acting. They act for a while, and then after about 3-6 months, the person leaves and the next person comes. It's been like that for a while now. And recently, of course, there was a forensic audit initiated by the National Assembly, the Joint Committee on Niger Delta Affairs, perhaps going by maybe whatever reasons it might have been. And as a result of that, there is a probe that just ended today. As a matter of fact, it was done publicly where we followed the proceedings of this committee. It's been a lot of drama. The high point of today was when Panday actually had by force cardiac arrest. You know, it was really dramatic. I'm actually joined by two people today on the show. Charles Aholu, he is a legal practitioner and as well as a political analyst. He's supposed to be joining me today. So please invite your friends to join in. I did like to have a full house because it's a matter that concerns the Niger Delta. I actually grew up in Port Harcourt, which is, of course, in the Niger Delta region. And, of course, I also come from the Niger Delta region because my state falls under the 9 states of the Niger Delta Commission. We have had complaints of scholarship programs that is being done by the Niger Delta Commission, not financed. You know, as a matter of fact, today was disgraceful because, if there's a probe going on, why would they have a probe going on and still monies are being disbursed daily? I found some things I heard today from the panel, appalling. And then, of course, to top up the drama, let me just run by through most of the dramas that happened today. All the while, we've had the issue between Akpabio, which the Niger Delta Niger Delta Affairs Minister, and, of course, the former acting MD of the NDDC, in the person of Joy Nune. On Saturday, we had a drama. On Friday, I beg your pardon. We had a drama of a lot of police harassment and all that. I think it happened on Monday, and then Wike came to her rescue and she was delivered from that. And she has been joining the probe via visual, and it's been going very, very well. And today, from the proceedings that has been happening, a name kept recurring, which is the name of Akpabio, that he was involved. He knows a lot of things that have gone down. He is actually in the helms of affairs of this corruption practices that is going on in the Niger Delta region. And as a matter of fact, there's been this 81 billion naira spent in 7 months buhaha. And though they corrected and said, see, we didn't spend this 81.5 billion, we didn't spend it in 7 months. It was spent in 8 months, a difference of 1 month. You could look at that and ask what's the difference between 8 and 7 months. Anyway, the argument is the dating is wrong, okay? Let me just read it out to you. NDDC, that's the Niger Delta Development Commission, defends itself saying that 81.5 billion was spent in 8 months between October 2019 to May 2020. As against the reported version of TVC, that's the news station, saying that it happened between January and July. It didn't happen between January and July. It happened between October and May 2020. Someone will ask, what is the difference? Charles Aholu is supposed to be joining me. Let's talk about this matter together. It's really something that we need to talk about. What is happening in the Niger Delta region? We have been talking so much about the north, having so much development going to the north, and then the NDDC was established with the sole aim to bring development to the Niger Delta region. This NDDC has never been manned by any northerner, neither has it been manned by anybody that is outside the region. From the inception of the NDDC, it has been manned by sons of the Niger Delta region, sons and daughters of the Niger Delta region. So what is really happening? Do we really have the problems in the Niger Delta solved? Okay, let's say, okay, the militancy issue died down a bit, but are they really solved? We still have communities without potable water. We still have communities who give out so much from their soil without schools to attend. We still have a lot of impoverishment in the Niger Delta region. Yet, 81.5 billion was blown in 8 months. Oh gosh. And then let's also go to the drama coming from Akpabio accusing the National Assembly members that 60% of contracts that was awarded by the NDDC in this period he's been there, from his files he has, is coming from most of the contractors are members of NAS. Whoops. I just got weak, because if we're expecting results from the panel, that's actually what we're looking at today with my analysts when they do join me. That's what we'll be looking at today. Please, if you're on, let me know. Say something. It's a very interesting topic. I just would like a participatory audience today. It concerns Nigeria. We've been crying for development in the region. It just looks like a couple of people gather together and spend the money meant for a whole region. The whole essence, part of which, of course, today during the plenary session, during the public hearing, you heard when one of the auditors accused that even while they are still in the process of probe, 667 million was still dispatched on the 17th of this month. They were still paying. You can imagine that kind of thing, that even while the case is still going on, the Niger Delta is still spending money recklessly. And it would be to imagination, though Akpabio came up with the argument to say that the commission should not close because there's an investigation going on, or there's forensic auditing going on, that it actually will ground a lot of things, because a lot of activities goes on in the Niger Delta. And if that commission is not running, the boys will not be controlled. The people who of course control the waters and all that, will not be controlled, and it will ground economic activities. We agree. But if there's a probe going on, should there still be payments going on? Wasn't the probe all about seeing, even though so much money is being given, so much money is spent, billions of naira are being owed to NDDC contractors? Can you imagine that? Despite the fact that I did like a participatory audience today, because this matter is a very, very interesting one. Even though we have billions, there are still chunks of contractors that are suing NDDC for owing them money. Can you imagine that? And though they came up with the argument on their Twitter account saying that this monies that they are being accused of using recklessly was well spent, if they were well spent today, there would not be need for the chairman of the managing director of NDDC having to have a cardiac issue while he was answering questions, because there are some kind of hot seats they put you on, and you know that you might not be able to feel it. Then that kind of occurrence would be possible. I'm not saying he faked it. I'm not a doctor. I think it is on the place of doctor to see that. But we all watched that video, and we saw the point where somebody was trying to resuscitate him and held him on the jaw, trying to open his mouth. He felt like he was being pressured, and he pushed the hands. That video is actually on the fan page, on Factual Chat with Debby page. There's been so much buhaha going on. Joy Nune accuses that Akpabio is responsible for bulk of the problems that they have in the Niger Delta, because he refuses to follow due process. Monies are being disbursed. He gives, even according to her, his girlfriend's contracts from the Niger Delta Development Commission. As she even accused that his girlfriend is in charge of supplies of diesel to the Niger Delta Development Commission. So much is going on at the moment. And even though there are billions of naira, there are stranded students on scholarship from the NDDC outside the country who their tuitions have not been paid. Where are all those monies going to? How do they explain this to us? And, looking at, you also remember that the chairman of the committee was accused of having a bias in the matter. So therefore, the MD refused to proceed with the panel. The other day, he was called for public hearing. He walked out on them and he said until they change who is chairing the committee, then he would sit down to even answer questions, because he insists that of course the guy chairing the committee has his hands all sucked in. Okay, I think we have our guest. Let me bring him in. He's just joining us now. Okay, he's joining us. All right. Good evening, and welcome to Factual Chat with Debby.
Good evening, Debby. Nice to be here.
How you doing?
Great.
Okay, it's been a lot of drama. A lot of drama coming from the Niger Delta Development Commission. You saw the plenary session today, I hope so. Did you see the public hearing today on the probe?
I did.
Okay. So looking at all the drama that has happened, would you say the NDDC, the aim of establishing the NDDC, is jeopardized already?
I would say that the aim of establishing the NDDC is jeopardized completely. I won't want to venture into that sort of conclusion, but I think that the NDDC has structural problems that has contributed to the ailment that is currently afflicting not only the institution but also the people of the Niger Delta. First, we must understand, why was NDDC established? That is the question we should be asking ourselves. Why was NDDC established? NDDC was established as an interventionist institution in 2000 to guarantee development at all levels to the people of the Niger Delta. And under the NDDC Act, the Act made substantial provision for the funding of the NDDC. The Act provided that NDDC was to be funded by oil prospecting companies contributing 3% of their profit, you understand, for the purposes of developing the NDDC. That contribution is supposed to be like an environmental or development tax for the sole purpose of funding the NDDC. So within year 2000 and 2018, the NDDC has spent well over $40 billion on capital projects. And the question we should be asking ourselves is, does the Niger Delta look like a place where $40 billion have been spent? So if that question cannot be answered in the affirmative, I won't say that the hope of establishing the NDDC is completely lost, but I would want to see it as a problem that needs to be solved, rather than a hope completely dashed.
Well, I must say that, or rather, do you think that the probe started way late? Do you think that more of the previous MDs should also come to table to tell us how they spent their own part in the $40 billion and what they did with it? Because at this juncture, it's looking like the matter had already gone too far, because these guys who are being probed now are just answering for the few months they spent in office. What's your take on that?
First, I believe that the question of who probes who in NDDC is one question that I believe cannot be resolved without the intervention of the president. Yes, the NDDC Act provides that the organization is like an independent corporation, but that under certain circumstances they receive directives from the president. The Act was very clear that the president can give directives to the NDDC, and the president exercises the right to give those directives through the Ministry of the Niger Delta. And if members or those who head the Ministry of the Niger Delta and those who head the NDDC are complicit in corruption, then they cannot set the agenda. They cannot set the agenda for the probe. So it is the function of responsibility falls back to the president as the head of the executive to set the agenda for the probe. Because the truth of the matter is that this probe needs to happen for sanity to return to how the NDDC is being managed. We cannot have an organization that has received well over 15 trillion since its establishment in the year 2000, and then we have students overseas dying of hunger. Niger Delta students that are supposed to be proud ambassadors of Nigerian nation, dying of hunger. I know a lot of them. Although I have been paid my scholarship, but I know a lot of them have been paid, and I know a lot of them that are going through untold hardship in Western jurisdictions, and many of them have abandoned their studies and have taken up menial jobs just to survive. So we need to hold some people accountable for those sort of actions. I think the NDDC is afflicted with two ailments, and those ailments are economic. The paradox of an economic paradox, which is the same thing as saying, see, the states in the Niger Delta, despite their healthy sustainability index, are still the paradox of plenty. The fact that the Niger Delta is endowed with so much economic resources has made the institutions in the Niger Delta complicit in the development, complicit in those practices that endanger the development of the institution. And we must begin to resolve these issues not only through laws, but also by establishing proper accountability of how these institutions and agencies are managed. So a situation where a managing director of an institution wakes up one morning and begin to make disbursements running into billion, we should begin to question things like that. A situation where somebody will spend 3 months as managing director, and within the space of the 3 months, the person has spent well over 30 billion. You understand that you cannot find in the creeks. That does nothing to improve the environmental well-being of the people of the Niger Delta. That does nothing to improve their economic well-being. It calls for greater introspection, and I think it is time we begin to take things like this very seriously.
Well, if we look at this matter closely, we would find out that it points out to the fact that when these people are appointed into offices, people nominate them for appointments. Severally, we've had instances where it will now trail back to the fact that the person who put you in there had references for you to give jobs to, had an interest. That's why you are there anyway. So they go in there and have to do biddings of their godfathers, people who put them into office. You heard Joy Union accuse Akpabio of the fact that Akpabio sends people to her to award contracts, that even the girlfriend of Akpabio is one of the people supplying diesel to the NDDC. Would you say corruption is entwined in Nigeria? Because if you look at the sitting today, Akpabio got to the point where he openly accused members of NAS of constituting 60% of contractors in the NDDC. That's a huge accusation. I'm telling you. Would you say that Nigeria is deep-necked into corruption, and it might be difficult to come out of it?
Well, I have always said this, and I will always say it, that if a better way of looking at Nigeria's position in terms of anti-corruption is by looking at the Global Perception Corruption Index. Nigeria is ranked, I think, the second most corrupt country in the world. There's absolutely no reason why we should conceal this fact. I do not also believe that Nigeria is more corrupt than certain Western nations, though. But I believe that corruption is a problem which needs to be urgently addressed. And the National Assembly cannot commercialize its law-making responsibility. They cannot commercialize it. That's one of the problems. And I think it also has to do with accountability. It has to do with accountability. The National Assembly has no business in executing contracts, for instance. They don't have any business there. The duties and responsibilities of the National Assembly is provided by Section 4 of the Nigerian Constitution. You understand that which provides that the National Assembly shall make law for the peace, order, and good governance of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. That is the only responsibility of the National Assembly. In other cases, the National Assembly supervises the executive. Now, they can perform oversight function over NDDC. But the law does not envisage a situation where, in the performance of those oversight responsibilities, the National Assembly now uses the oversight as a means of deriving benefit from the NDDC. No. So if there are accusations against members of the National Assembly, if there are companies of members, if there are companies affiliated to these members, then I think they are committing an offense under the laws of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and that is a matter for the EFCC to take action. So corruption.
But even the EFCC you're talking about also have their own issues.
So I am not saying that. The truth of the matter is that you must start from somewhere. What we don't want to do is to come to that situation where we'll say because a segment of the nation is corrupt, you understand, or because there are perception issues relating to organizations, then we will all fold our hands akimbo and watch the nation go into flames. No, I don't agree. I don't agree with that. The fact that there are institutional questions about the integrity of the EFCC to pursue the anti-corruption agenda does not in any way preclude them from also performing the functions of their office. Yes, questions might arise, but I believe that we don't want to be in that situation where we will allow everybody go haywire and then people begin to do the things which ordinarily they don't need to do. One of the problems in Nigeria is that we have strong men and not strong institutions. So we want to gloss about these things, but we have a situation where certain politicians can be in their house and that they can conjure the number of a judge, you understand, and then say, I want this injunction and I want this injunction. There are matters that have been in court for up to 1 year. They have not made any progress. But political matters are resolved in less than 2 weeks, and political injunctions are gotten in less than 1 week. How do you explain such a situation? Of course, it is inexplainable it is not explainable upon any other hypothesis than that of corruption. A corrupt system that favors and protects the entrenched interests of the political class. And I think that is what we need to begin to address, to take back power from this minute strata of individuals back to the people who own it. And those are the ordinary people of Nigeria.
Well, today, after watching Akpabio and those members head on head, and the confidence he had when he accused them, I sort of lost the confidence in that panel. Because if Akpabio can come out openly and lay such an accusation, I believe he has some facts on the table, because he kept telling them that I have my papers. I know that you people are the highest beneficiaries from this. You know, if that is the case, do you think the probing might take us anywhere? I mean, by the National Assembly.
I think the probe and the counter accusations from all the teams is in the best interest of Nigeria. The probe and counter accusation of all parties will be in the best interest of Nigeria. Why did I say so? If Babio accuses members of the National Assembly of complicity in the awards of contracts, then they have the committed offenses which the law needs to address in Nigeria, or which law enforcement agencies need to address in Nigeria. And if, on the other hand, the probe, the members of the committee are accusing the Ministry of the Niger Delta of complicity also in the award of contracts and expenditure within a very minute period of time. Then there is also the issue of complexity amongst them. They are name calling. The most important thing is that those who are saddled with the responsibility of bringing them to book should begin to perform their jobs, should do their jobs. You understand? And the fact that people trade allegations does not necessarily make them guilty. That is where evidence comes. The anti-corruption agencies must now begin to ask questions. So if you say, for example, you spent money outside budgetary allocation, who gave you the power to do that? Under the Fiscal Responsibility Act is an offense. You have committed an offense if you spend money that is not appropriated. You cannot spend money that is not appropriated. Is it that law enforcement agents do not know that this is a serious financial infraction that needs to be punished? So it now behoves on the ICPC, the EFCC to begin to ask questions. Are there those who abuse their institutions? They begin to ask questions. And those who are found wanting must be punished publicly. They must be punished publicly and brought to book. See, we cannot continue to live in a nation that is where accountability is at zero level. We cannot continue to do that. If we want to be serious as a nation, if we want to break our cycle of underdevelopment, then we must make accountability a watchword of not only our national posture, but also of the posture of every national institution. We cannot continue to do things, let people get away with it. Tomorrow, these people spent 5 billion, the other people spent 20 billion. It is unthinkable
it's
that
a crusade of billions everywhere.
So it's unthinkable that more than $40 billion have been spent on capital projects in the Niger Delta. And yet, the Niger Delta is looking like a glorified slum. Niger Delta youths are busy walking up and down without jobs. So they send people abroad to understudy certain critical courses that are essential to the enforcement of the Niger Delta Master Plan and abandon them there without paying for their school fees, without paying their stipends. Who does that? Until we begin to hold people accountable. Let me give you a clear-cut example. In 2016, the study, and they were supposed to be giving about 500,000. Some of them got it. Myself, I got it. You understand? But I know a lot of students that did not get it, and that money have been released. To ask questions, what happened to it? Half of those students who did not receive. So the Niger Delta, the story of the NDDC and the Niger Delta have become a circle of corruption. And one way of nipping it in the bud is to make sure that we hold those who are guilty of this corruption accountable for their mischief.
Well, if you look at the sole aim of establishing the NDDC, would you say Nigeria has been vindicated? Because the accusation has been that development does not face this way. The Niger Delta region, the South gets little of everything, and then the northern part has bulk of it, with example of the Federal Capital Territory looking all toast and looking like a modern city, but you don't have places around the South where's any look like where producers, the resource survives on. Would you say the happenings that the sole aim in the Niger Delta region had actually been met from their own end, and it is people who are supposed to make this thing happen for their brothers that have jeopardized the efforts of the federal government by setting up the commission?
The problem is that the problem with your question now is that you equate the federal government with the North. It appears that this federal government, the reference to the federal government,
clearly, so that you don't put me out of context. I said that the federal, should we say the federal government has been vindicated, as there had been accusation. There's a picture that went viral last week. They showed the slum, and then they showed some nice-looking northern boys. The federal government now is not the north, get me? But there's an accusation that the northern part of Nigeria seems to derive more of developments from the resources that comes from the Niger Delta region. That is my point.
I don't agree with you. I don't think. I get your point exactly. I get your point clearly. I think both parties, both the leaders in the Niger Delta and the federal government are all complicit in the underdevelopment in the Niger Delta. Why did I say so? The federal government has supervisory control over the NDDC. The NDDC, at least the president, I know the president has power of appointment. You understand? And under the Interpretation Act, whomever the president is capable of removing. So if the president, if the leaders of those institutions in the Niger Delta, especially those that are within the supervisory umbrella of the federal government, are not discharging the functions of their office in a manner that is sensitive to the Niger Delta Development Plan, I think it is the function of the government to act, and they can act through the power of removal. So although many of them have, for example, they have a defined tenure of 4 years. Don't forget, the NDDC Act also stipulates the circumstances under which they can be removed, and corruption is one of them. And if the corruption did not start today, why is it that they have not been removed when they are found wanting of corruption? Why is it that they have not been removed when they are incapable of performing the functions of their office? Why is it that, irrespective of the fact that the Niger Delta remains a glorified slum, and companies are making their contribution as required under the NDDC Act, why is it that the federal government have refused to act? While I believe that indigenes of the Niger Delta who have headed these institutions are complicit in the developmental abysmality of the Niger Delta, I also believe that the federal government have not exercised its supervisory jurisdiction over the NDDC in a very timely and proper manner. So I think that is the problem. And then look at it from this perspective. Let's now trickle it down now to those indigenes of the Niger Delta who have headed these institutions. If you look at the NDDC from 2000 to 2018, is the NDDC headed by a Northerner? No. The NDDC is not headed by a Northerner. The Abuja that you laid claim to, there is a budget, a capital budget for Abuja. Who was the person that enforced the redesign of the Abuja, that enforced the Abuja master plan? Was it not a Northerner? RFI. Why is it that those our members that have headed the NDDC have not been able to enforce the Niger Delta master plan? The Niger Delta master plan is such a beautiful piece of document. A beautiful piece of document that is very rich in intellectual insight. Why is it that the NDDC is not religiously enforcing this document? And I will tell you a problem. One of the problems is that we have not had proper change management. We have not had proper change management. We see what we have in the Niger Delta is a situation where one board comes in and begins to undo what the other board have done. You understand? Change management is a very important indices of every organization. We have not had that. And then another thing too is that we have a defective procurement process. A procurement process that allows an NDDC MD to approve 1 billion. You understand? Just because an agency receives that to approve 1 billion for an agency whose job, sole responsibility is to gather the revenue of NDDC. Why do they have staffs in their finance department if they would outsource that very important responsibility? Why do we have financial specialists working in the NDDC? Why do someone now need to be paid 12 billion a year just to recover monies owed to the NDDC? Is it not ridiculous?